you this then. This is Curry's own cheapest washing machine that they sell. This is a Chinese washing machine, and let me tell you, it's not that bad. Yeah. So, it's a Logik L712WM23, and this is Curry's cheapest model that they have by Logik, which is Curry's own brand, manufactured by Midea in China. But don't let you put that off. Midea have been around for way over 15 years in this country alone. Oddly enough, been making Logik brands, you know, alternatively with Vestel for years, and they've proven to be rather good. Anyway, 712 WM23. This is the WM23 is 2023 design, so that's how current this is. It also comes in a number of guises, so you can go to Curry's today and buy either this 712 7kg 1200 spin machine. You can have a 714 for 239, which gives you a 7kg 1400 spin. They do a more simpler version of this with basically all your programs on the dial, 6kg 1200 spin, but that's more expensive than this at 229. You can buy an 8kg 1400 spin L814 WM23 for 239. You can buy a 9kg 1400 spin L914 WM23 for 259, and a 10kg 1400 spin L1014 WM23 for £299. So it's a cheap machine, cheap to buy, made by China. You expect it to be rubbish, and that's far from the case. How far from the case? Well, right next to this here is the Bosch WMT0712EW. This is Vestel made, and this is Argos's own brand. And yeah, it just walks all over it basically. Same price, walks all over it. Right, we'll start off with the dimensions, of course. So standard washing machine height, 85 centimetres, just under. Standard washing machine width, just under 60 centimetres. And it's 47.5 centimetres deep, making it a slim depth machine. Right, time for an annoyance. Yeah, that. This is your filter here, but if you notice, there's no runoff, and it's also off-centre. Trying to get this out is a little bit of a pain because it's just, this bodywork is just ever so slightly in front of this. So you've got to sort of pull it out and then sort of at an angle just to get it out. And all the water that's sat inside here is just going to go running off down either way there, and basically all over your kitchen floor. There's nothing you can do about it. That's annoying. You can eradicate this by buying the 10kg model that they sell. By which point what they've done is change the flap design. That has a square flap design, which means that this is actually in the centre and has a runoff. Effectively, the upper model bushes from Argos. Oh well. Right, a door's here. Slight quality issue with this door handle. It does rattle a little bit, but to be honest, that's probably the only thing that does make a little bit of a rattle. Other than that, it runs fairly well. This is our drum design. The back of this is very sort of, well, a bit old school really. A bit hot pointy. Boy. So then we've got our door seal here. And we've got 1, 2, 3 drum paddles. These holes are quite wide spaced, quite small. But to be fair, it does spin okay. It's not the best in the world, but it's pretty good at draining. Also, drum depth, it's not very deep. Maybe a bit more towards the back, but from the centre where I normally measure it from to the lip, just over a hand's width. I've got in mind, I think the drum volume is around 45 litres, so it's not actually as big as you might think it is. And unfortunately that means up against, to be fair, up against the Vestal Bush, it's not that much smaller, but up against main brands like Hotpoint and Beko and Indesit, it is really noticeably small for a 7 kilogram machine. But then again, it also has a slim depth over those bigger brands. So you've got that to take into account as well. To be fair, it'll take on a full load of poly cotton bedding there. There's obviously a bottom sheet, a top sheet, a duvet cover and pillowcases quite happily. Although, if it was normal cotton bedding, you might struggle. Right, I'll take a look at the programs at the top. What we've got. Now, if you've got the 612-23, this may help you a little bit, but other than that, you've got the basic program set and it is completely different. But if you've got any of the other models I've mentioned from the 7 kilogram upwards, they're all the same. The timings might be slightly different though for each program, but my information is still going to apply in every single case. So what I'm going to do is refer the load sizes as full load, half load and 2 kilogram. Ready? Right, turn it on. Right, so turn it on. First program, cotton, made for washing a full load of cotton laundry that is moderate to heavily soiled. It will preset at 40 degrees. It will also preset at 1000 RPM. This is kind of annoying with medium-made machines, but to be fair, all Chinese machines are like this. They don't default to the maximum spin speed for that set cycle. You can increase the spin speed if you wish, just by hitting the spin speed repeatedly. 12 dash means 1200 spin, but anything lower than that, and it will actually display the value of the actual spin speed in full. So also we've got 0, 400 RPM, 600 RPM, 800 RPM, and then obviously 10 dashes 1000 RPM, and 12 dashes 1200 RPM. Right. We've also got a delay start feature here, and that's delay start. So if you set it for 3 hours, for example, it will delay for 3 hours, then start the cycle for its whatever the length of the value of the cycle is for that time. So for example, if I was to start it now at 11 o'clock at night, it would start at 2 AM in the morning and then finish at roughly half 4 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, give or take. So if you're on economy 7 electricity, or if you're on one of these newfangled EV ones to take advantage of cheap rate electricity, you can. And you can delay the start up to 24 hours. That's quite nice to have, actually. Right, temp. So you've got variable temperature. The temperature will be limited depending on what cycle you select. Take that in mind. So max temperature for cotton, of course, is up to 90 degrees. No LED marker means it's set to cold, so the heater will not engage. Set to 20, the heater will engage and heat to 20. And of course, the time does change depending on how hot you set it. Then you've got function here. Basically, it's 2 wash options you can choose from. You can add on pre-wash, which will add on a 25-minute cold pre-wash. I don't think this one heats. I don't think this heats the 30s normal. Yeah, I think it's a 25-minute pre-wash before they start the main wash in cold water. So it's quite good for pre-soaking stains or removing bulk of dirt from the laundry. So if you've got, say, muddy dog towels, say, you can use the pre-wash and that will remove majority of the dirt that's quite loose. Then obviously your heat and wash action of the actual main wash pummel the rest of the dirt out. Extra rinse function will add on one more rinsing step on to the wash cycle. So majority of these cycles do around 2 rinses. So adding extra rinse will add a third generally. If it does 3 rinses, it will add on a 4th. You know, so and so on. And you can combine both options together. We've also got a child lock function. Press and hold for 3 seconds. And then when it comes up, CL will flash and the child lock option will light. 3 seconds and that's back off. If you want to turn the sound off and on to stop this beeping or to turn off the beeper, for example, press and hold the spin speed for 3 seconds. So it beeps, but now when I turn the dial, look, there's no beeping. Press and hold spin again, and we're back on. Right, now we've got this over here, drum clean. So you can set it to any cycle as long as it's just not on off. Press drum clean, press start, and what that will do with 0 laundry in it is heat up to 90 degrees and will basically, it will both sanitize the drum and get rid of any build-up. However, it's not a very good drum clean cycle. Right. Then we've got steam wash. Presets at 40, you can increase the temperature up to 90 degrees, but it is limited down to 40 degrees. The spin speed is preset at 1000. You can have anything you want. So steam wash is made for washing a half load of cotton laundry that's normal soiled. And what it'll do, it will do a 20-ish minute steam phase at the start of the cycle to try and eliminate and sanitize your laundry prior. It's not very good though. I'm going to be honest. Then we've got synthetics. Of course, it's made for washing a half load of man-made fibres like polyester and nylon and rayon and all that. It will preset the spin at 800 RPM, and this can be increased to a maximum of 1200. Now I'm saying maximum 1200 because if you have a 1400 spin variant, you can't go above 12. Temperature, you can have up to 60 degrees. Of course, you can also turn it off. You can also add on pre-wash and extra rinse. Right. Synthetics at 40 and 60 is made for washing heavily soiled, moderate to heavily soiled synthetics. Of course, at cold and 20, it's made for washing lightly soiled synthetics. Hence the massive time drop. That's nothing to do with heating, they've just cut the wash time down. Then you got the mixed cycle. It's made for washing a full load of, well, cotton laundry. You can put any colours you want in. You could, if you limit the load to half a load, do synthetics as well if you wanted to. It's a short cycle, so it's made for washing lightly soiled laundry, lightly to moderately soiled. Presets at 40. You can go up to 90. Yes, that is quite a surprise. If you do select 90 though, just be aware it doesn't always quite get to 90 in that time. So it'll get towards it, maybe past 60, maybe 65 or something, but it's never quite enough, especially if you have got a full load in. If you've got a small load in, you do stand a chance of getting 90 degrees. Same with 60, it's not quite as long, so you might get 55, might get 50, 55 degrees in that time, but never 60. It's not like, say, cotton at 60, where you will hit 60. Then we've got the jean cycle, also made for washing a full load. If you notice, though, the time is 20 minutes longer. So what does jeans do differently? Does it add an extra rinse? No. But what it does do is increases the water level on the wash and the rinsers. So in the wash, all the detergent is washed in properly, dissolved properly, and then of course the rinsers ensure better rinsing. It's made for washing, again, lightly to normal soiled jeans. I'll say jeans, you can put really any darks in you want, and even more cool is I find the jeans cycle is pretty good if you're washing, let's say, pillows and stuff like that, because of the high water level. Anyway, temperature, you can go up to 90 and you can switch it off. Spin speed, it presets at 800, but you can go up to 12. I just forgot to also do with mix. Mix, it presets at 1000 spin. You can also increase it up to 1200 RPM. Then you got Eco 4060. Now on this cycle, this is how they measure the energy efficiency of the machine to get its, well, D energy rating. Yeah, a D. It's not very good. It's 3 hours 28, but that time will drop depending on how much laundry you put in. It'll vary how high the temperature goes up to, so it will go somewhere up to 40 degrees, but smaller load, and it's also a lower temperature. Also less water. What I did find was even with a smaller load, it still does 2 rinses, which compared to competitors isn't too bad, but it does mean it uses more water than its competitors and therefore not quite as economical. Spin speed will default to its maximum, so whether it's 1200 on, say, this 1200 model or 1400 on the 1400 model, and you cannot change it. Same with temperature, you cannot change it, and with functions, you cannot add them. Right, then you got the 20 degree program, which is found in all the models, including the lower model. Again, the cycle time is all 1 hour 1 at 20 degrees, made for washing a half load of lightly soiled cotton and synthetics you want to. Yeah, it presets the spin speed at 1000. Again, you can increase it to 1200 or 1400 if you wish, if it's on the 1400 model. Right. And then you can turn the temperature off, and if you do, it is 1 hour across the board for all the models. And you can add on an extra rinse if you wish as well. The wash cycle time, the actual wash stage, is only 10 minutes long. Just be aware of that, and it spends the next 45, 50 minutes rinsing the clothes. So, yeah, it's a bit of a pathetic wash. However, due to European standards, we have to have 20 degrees labelled on there somewhere. And you don't even have to follow any rules, for some bizarre reason. Some will just do 20 degrees for a full load, this one 20 degrees for a half load. I don't understand it. I don't understand why we need it, personally, when you can already select 20 degrees on, say, the cotton cycle. But there you go. You've got spin only, and you can put any amount of washing in you want to respin. Again, it will always preset at 1000 RPM. You can select 1200 RPM, and if you want drain only, turn the spin off to 0. You'll watch the time go down. There we go. So if we were to hit start now, it will just drain for 2 minutes, and then switch off. Then we've got rinse and spin. Again, put any amount of laundry you want up to the full load. It will just do one rinse with the fabric softener, followed by a full length cotton spin at any spin speed you want. Again, presets at 1000. You can up it, and you can add on extra rinse. So you can do 2 rinses instead. Then we've got bed linen. Bit of an odd one. It will preset at 40. You can increase to 60. You can obviously turn the temperature off. You can add on the pre-wash and extra rinse as well. And your spin speed presets at 1000. Max load, half a load. It's made for washing cotton or synthetic bed linen. But I kind of get the idea that it may be more for duvets, even though the machine just isn't big enough for duvets anyway. However, of course, once you get to sort of 9-10 kilogram versions, you can wash a duvet. So, yeah. Then we've got baby care. Presets at 60, but you can have any temperature you want. Actually, in the manual, if for some reason, it represents 40 degrees. So, I think the manual's more updated, so if you had the latest, brand new that, it will probably say 1 hour 48 and go to 40 instead. Anyway, it's weird, this cycle, because it's made for washing 7 kilograms, full load, for washing baby clothes. But that's quite a short wash, and it doesn't seem to add on any rinsing. Certainly what I can't work out anyway. And of course, it's baby clothes, so they're going to be quite heavily soiled, aren't they? Yeah. I feel like them putting 7 kilogram or a full load effectively is not really good. It should be made for washing a half load instead when it's only this length. At least you can have an extra rinse and you can add on the pre-wash, which you're probably going to need if you're going to wash baby stuff. Again, presets at 1000 spin. I can go up to 1200 RPM. That glitched out then. That was weird. Oh well. Right, then we've got the wool cycle. You strangely don't have a wool cycle on the lower Logik, but on the contrary, we don't have a delicate cycle on these ones either. So, made for washing 2 kilogram, so that's 2 kilogram regardless what size of the low capacity this machine is. Obviously, no more than 40 degrees to prevent wool being destroyed by the heat. You can have it at lower temperature if you wish. Leave it at 40, it's fine. Obviously, it does a high level, very, very gentle wash action. You know, and will limit the spin as well. It's set at 600 and can only go to 800. Kind of an extra rinse, which is unusual for wool cycle. You don't always get the option of an extra rinse. Right, then we've got the sportswear cycle, which is made for washing a half load of lightly soiled sportswear and synthetics. To be fair, it's quite an effective cycle. It does work, it's quite short, and it cancels a lot of the intermediate spins out, as far as I can see. So it does have a relatively longer wash. Again, 2 rinses as normal, and all that jazz. Max temperature, no more than 40 degrees. We can add on a pre-wash if we wish, and extra rinse. Spin speed is set at 800, but it can go up to 1200. Just to note as well, that despite being able to select a faster spin speed on a lot of these cycles, because the actual spin length is shortened, you will happily go to the maximum spin speed set, but it won't sit there for as long. That's what it does. Right, then we've got Rapid 45, and strangely, this is made for washing 2 kilogram, but of heavily soiled items. Yeah, you heard that right. Sort of moderate to heavy soiled 2 kilograms in 45 minutes. And despite having 800 RPM set, it can go up to 1200 RPM, which isn't bad. And it's preset at 20 degrees, but you can have 40 degrees. It only adds on 5 minutes, so hey, there you go. And if you really want to, you can go up to 60 degrees, but it's now 13. Ideally, it's a little too long to compete against any of its rivals, because all its rivals will happily do a 60-minute, 60-degree cycle as normal for a half load or a small load, whatever. But no, not on this. It's an hour 13. That's, I think, just a little too long. Hang on. You can add on an extra rinse, but 19 minutes. Again, it does 2 rinses anyway, so adding on an extra rinse does a third. See how it glitches out? I've gone over to Express 15 and it's not changed over. Right. Then we've got Rapid Express 15, again made for washing, 2 kilogram, but this time of very lightly soiled items that generally need refreshing. At 15 minutes, it defaults at cold, no heating. You can increase the temperature to 20 if you wish, and you can even increase it to 40. Although by this point, it's nearly just as long as the rapid cycle, so it's not necessarily that much quicker. It does, strangely, do 2 rinses. Very quick rinses, but 2 rinses either way. Final spin is 800 RPM and it cannot be increased, simply because it actually shortens the final spin length. See? It's only taken off 3 minutes. And there we go. Right, so interestingly, I've just worked out that there are only around 4 different lengths of spin. They're either 10 minutes long at 1200 RPM, 8 minutes long at 1200 RPM, the wool one, which is unique to itself, and Express 15, which is also unique to itself. And that's it, really. Generally speaking, they all spin up to 1200, and the actual length at 1200 RPM varies from either being about a 30-second burst to being a couple minutes long, depending which of the cycles you select. The mixed cycle, for example, does an 8-minute spin, whilst the jeans, the synthetics, the cottons, and even the steam wash, and even 20 degrees, and bed linen, and baby care all do a 10-minute length. Rapid 45 also does a 10-minute length spin. Interesting. Right, this is our detergent drawer. There's no getting around this. It's small, cheap, and flimsy. But to be fair, this also only 219 quid. And if you get the bigger capacity machines, you do get a bigger drawer as well. So that's not too bad. Middle one, you put your fabric softener in. This one, you only put detergent in if you're selecting the pre-wash option beforehand, and if you are selecting the pre-wash, you put detergent in both this compartment and in the main wash compartment, which is, of course, this compartment. There's 30ml in there. It doesn't take that much powder, unfortunately. I think max, there's 30ml to demonstrate. The max level for the main wash is around 220ml, whilst the pre-wash will only take around 100ml, so roughly. So they're not big, but that also being said, it's plentiful for modern powdered detergents. Also, for liquid and all that, just follow the manufacturer's instructions. They usually all go inside the drum with the clothes. There's nothing you can actually get to put in here to add liquid, unfortunately. Well, at least not on this anyway. Right, since it's appropriate, we'll put it onto bed linen and select 60. We'll also up the spin to 1200 because we can. Right, we're going to hit start in a minute. We're going to end up with another light for the door. But if you were to select the time delay, when you press start, during the time delay mode, it will count down the time to the end of the time delay. And this little icon will actually light with it. Once it starts the main wash, that light will then go out if you have time delay selected. strangely, they're quite warm. Despite being on the 60 cycle. So they're not cooled down in the time of doing the 60 cycle. Spin results, though, great, because you can do 1200 on pretty much anything. And they'll happily do that and hold the spin for a while. Pretty neat. Right, so what to give this Logik, whether it's out of 10? Well, regardless whether it's, apart from the 6 kilo 1200, which of course costs more money with less programs, that's only going to get a 7 out of 10. 7 out. This and any of the other size loads, so it doesn't matter, they are all going to be equal under this, apart from maybe the 1400 version of the 7 kilos, simply because it's the same price as an 8 kilo, which is also 1400 spin. So the 7 kilo 1200 spin, the 8 kilo 1400 spin, 9 kilo 1400 spin, and the 10 kilo 1400 spin are all going to get the equivalent 8.5 out of 10. While the 1400, because it costs just as much as the 8 kilo, which makes no sense, it's going to get 7.5 out of 10, unfortunately. So there you go. Few different results there. This is all based on price, performance, and what you get for your money. And sure enough, there is plenty to go for this machine. The only problem is that Beko do everything better. That's the only problem. That, or the fact you can get an Indesit, but the Indesit isn't as, I don't think the Indesit's as well equipped for the same amount for this money. So, yeah, but the Beko does, and that's one letdown. So the Beko is better equipped at the cheap price point. So if you get the basic Beko B100, yes, it's slightly, maybe it's a little bit more money, but it's just so much better. However, if you do want a very, very, very cheap machine, compared to the Bush that's right next to it, and compared, to be honest, even like stuff against Hisense do a cheap machine, and a small 7 kilogram whatever, but knowing what the Hisense is like as a 10 kilo, I know what the 7 kilo is like. Bear in mind that's a brush version, and that is far worse. So this is definitely better in a lot of ways. We'll start off with the drum clean. The drum clean actually does spin the hot water once it's at boil, which is good. Just not long enough, I think. That's my only gripe. And it doesn't rinse on the drum clean. So you come to it and the drum is still really hot and definitely unrinsed. So my only gripe of that drum clean is, yes, it's very good, it's programmed fine, just needs a rinse attaching to it at the end of the cycle. Oh well. But as for everything else, it's good. Maybe the only other gripe I got with it is there's no load sensor other than on Eco 4060, but there's no load sensor on any of the other programs, so it just runs as is, programmed as is, pretty much with the same water levels regardless how much you put in. That's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just a bit behind with the times. Basically Beko do it, and then Indesit do it. They do kind of weigh stuff. Same with Hisense, they do weigh stuff on certain programs, kind of thing. This is more reliable in that sense. Also, proven track record of Midea so far, the brushed motors they have one or two issues, fine, but they're just general issues like wearing out of brushes very quickly sometimes. But generally you'll get 7, 8, 9, 10 years, 12 years out of a set of brushes. Yes, you can have ones with drum bearings that go very quickly within the first couple of years, but I've noticed this with any brand. But generally the Spider will happily last about between 8 and 10 plus years, so it's pretty well made, especially at the price point that we're paying at it here. That being said, yeah, up against Beko, I'm not so sure. But I think Beko does everything a little bit better in every single way, and that's its problem. Yes, I'm going to give it's fine at 8.5 out of 10. It's just that the Beko also scored higher. on everything, and the Beko was a better machine. It's up to you whether you want to buy from China or from Turkey, so there you go. I'm not discounting the Indesit either. I think that's the Indesit's still a good alternative for a cheap machine, but this is definitely better than the cheap Hisense machines. It's better than the cheap TCL made machines. Bear in mind, TCL is a brand new brand, and it definitely walks all over Vestel in a lot of ways. I would say this is probably actually simpler to use than the Indesit. I do love this very large digital display. You want to see the time? You've got your time. It shows you it. That's it. Also, it's simplistic as well in another way, in the fact that you want certain options, you can just hit them and it's fine. There's nothing hidden away. Everything's there for you. So it's easy to use. Obviously, the cheapest in curries to buy. It's fairly well built. Yes, there's all quality issues, but to be fair, compared to Hisense, which effectively is usually more money, it's better. But I don't really expect anything less either, and it does everything fine. And that's what you want, really. A washing machine that's good overall, and this is one of them. This machine is not a letdown. If I was given this machine as an everyday machine, I'd be happy with it. I mean, especially for me, I'm obviously single occupant, because the drum size is about big enough for me. Even if you're a couple, it's fine. I would also say if you are landlord, landlady, whatever, and you do want just a cheap tenant machine, or if you've got a small HMO with, like, say 4 or 5 tenants in, just stick with this. It's all right. My only gripe with that is part availability, because it has got the Logik brand stuck on the front. However, if you've got a decent enough engineer, they will probably find most of the parts anyway. The brushes are pretty common. The motor's quite common, actually. And to be fair, while you may not necessarily quickly find some of these parts under, say, the Logik, you should be able to on Partmaster. But even so, even on other sites, it will just come up as media. It's great. And they're not that expensive. They're still cheaper than Hoover and Candy. Oh, there you go. That's the other thing. This is way better than Hoover and Candy. It's also its competitor. Yes, they give you a bigger low capacity, but it just transfers it in everything, in every single metric. Just in general, full stop. So, I don't mind these. These are pretty good machines. And that's saying something. Alright, I'm kind of encouraging the fact that I've got the word Logik written on the front, and that's me encouraging you to go shop at Currys kind of thing. It's not. It's me saying go buy a Midea-made machine. So, they do write it under... Now, they've now started doing their own brand now, Midea, so if you were to go buy one of theirs, you're basically getting this kind of programming. Although you will be getting an inverter motor nowadays. And they're okay, they're fine. The inverter motors appear so far, to a point, to be fairly reliable. So, but they haven't really been around either for that long, so it's one of them. Yeah, my ex has still got hers. Midea made 6 years old. Not had any problems so far. What more do you want? Cool. Right, I really enjoyed this review. I think I'm I'm sticking with 8.5. It's fine. It's definitely not quite as good as a Beko. It's probably on par with an Indesit. Obviously, Trouncers, Vestel, Hisense, and Hoover in a lot of metrics. So, for the money, for the performance, performance is really good on this, actually. Your wash performance is good. Your rinsing performance is excellent. The spin performance is a bit mediocre at times, but apart from putting, say, one wool item on the wool cycle, where it completely then abandoned the wool spin at the end, everything else, if you set it to a higher spin, it will happily, it seems to always go to that higher spin. What more do you want? Oh, and by the way, that's an improvement, because I'm going to do a review of the Bosch 12 kilogram I've also got, which is the newer model over my X's one. And it's been so improved in so many ways that, you know, Media really are an up and coming brand. Yes, it's Chinese, but we've got to accept that it's if the Chinese do better, the Chinese do better. And to me, that's progress. It's not like Chinese are churning out stuff and then churning out rubbish. Well, they are in other brands, in other areas, but no, Media is pretty good. And they're very quickly starting to learn how we like our machines programmed. So one of the improvements, steady improvements over the years, is the spin speed where it presets to. Now this still has it where it presets to 1,000 a lot, instead of like 1,200, but that's better than what it used to be when it used to be 800. However, that also being said, the Bosch I've got will happily preset to full whack. So they're getting there, and they're very up and rising. They're proven so far to be reliable machines with not too many uncommon problems. Now I'm going to have other engineers, if there's engineers watching this, could be arguing against this about Media. But the truth is, they're only arguing against it because of part availability. But it depends who you shop for. Part availability in this country is a little... we can get it within 24 hours. It's just that it's never really inside the country full stop. So it's... one of them, it's... we're getting there. But it's like with any new manufacturer. You're always going to have problems with part availability at the start until they are well established, and even then it's not until they're well established that we get and they sell well that we get copy or even improved copies, you know, improved alternative copies to the parts to make them both cheaper or and better. In that sense. That's why Bosch parts are very cheap, and Insit parts are very cheap, and the LG parts are very cheap because of how much competition, because of how much they sell, and it's great. Don't forget, LG, from where they come from in Korea, and that Korean brand has, you know, now cemented itself within society, into the UK. Bearing in mind, nobody would have bought one years ago when it first... even when my nana bought one in 2008, LG was hardly that popular. And yet it had been around for over 10 years on our country at that point. Now, we can't escape LG. LG is everywhere. And they're still proven to be rather good machines. Samsung's another, but... wait. We'll go to Samsung. Yeah, that's not a very good example. Media... yeah, it's like LG. I think they are proven to be fairly reliable, cheap, and with fairly good performance for the money. And I can see Media, if they do it right, they can take off in this country as well as their own brand. The only problem is because they are very known as Chinese, because of the way people feel about China, not necessarily going to sell. But then I kind of look at it and go, well, yeah, but I'd much rather have something that is good at doing its job of being a washing machine than an e-bag. Yeah, and that's my problem with everything. I don't mind cheap brands that are a little bit plasticky, so long as they perform well as a machine and prove some kind of fairly decent reliability. They don't necessarily need to be the best at the job, but if they're really, really good for what they are at the money, it makes sense. That's why it gets 8.5 out of 10. That's why stuff like this gets 8.5 out of 10. It's why the Beckos get rather good ratings. They have their problems still, but they can all be overlooked by the price point and the performance. And that's what matters. Something that can be unreliable, you get the best performing machine that's extremely unreliable and it will still get a good score. But you can have a well-built machine that washes poorly and rinses poorly and spins poorly and has all these issues with the programming, for example. It's going to score low despite it being reliable, because unfortunately I don't see the point on having a washing machine that's going to be lasting for 20 years if it can't do the job of being a washing machine. Annoying, but true. Right, I hope you enjoyed the video. Give us a like if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to comment down below. I do like the machine. Now, whether your opinion changes, you can let me know down below. You might have been swayed towards the Logik now, maybe. Maybe not. I'll see you lot in another video, so bye for now.